Hello and welcome to Ideas for Training from Home. Okay, one of the things I wanted to look at today is a lot of the muscles act in an elastic manner. Okay, the more you stretch out, the more it wants to release and come back in again. Okay, like a huge elastic band. Now there is some actual real science behind this, and it's to do with the fascial system. Your fascial system is like the sinew or the film which kind of covers muscles. So it goes from one muscle to another muscle and it forms networks throughout the human body. And this is not something that's theoretical, this is something that's been proven and actually cut out of bodies. These are actual fascial pathways which have been cut out of a body. Okay, and if you look at this one in particular, you might recognise you're starting with the foot, going up through the back of the leg, the calf muscle, through the thigh, through the hip, and this goes up the spine and joining up to the base of the skull. Okay, you've got others like this one, which is obviously from the scapula going down the arm. Okay, so these are real networks of fascial tissue or sinew-like tissue, which form networks throughout the entire body. And when we can engage those networks, then ironically we can engage an awful lot of power. And the reason why this works is when you stretch out the fascial tissue, it has a strange way of connecting muscles together. Okay, muscles are separate from each other. They're joined at one end to a piece of bone and at the other end to a piece of bone. So they're separate. And when you tense, you tend to tense one piece of muscle, but not all of them. So it's difficult to tense all your muscles at the same time. However, if you think when you get up in the morning and you stretch, you have a yawn, stretch, okay, you're basically connecting from one fingertip through the other fingertip, through those arms, through the chest, through the other arm to the other set of fingertips. And again, if we look at some of the fascial networks, here in blue, you can see some of the fascial networks that run through the body. Okay, it's quite a few of them. We're mainly interested today with the ones in the arm and upper chest. And you can see there's basically two here. There's two different fascial systems which run through the arm and the chest. One which kind of connects mainly at the front of the body and one which connects at the back of the body. Okay, this one is mainly at the front of the body. This one is more attached to the scapula at the back. But both of them have these fascial networks that go from the chest through the arm right down to the fingertips. So just to emphasise this a little bit, I'm going to use a bungee. Okay. Now, some of the easiest techniques to envisage this with is a technique where the hand comes from one side of the body to the other side. So you've got like the Bunkai, that downward block. You've got the Uchuki, which comes from that side across. We've got the Shotokan knife hand block, where the hand comes from one side to the other. So if you envisage this as being like the fascial system, okay, going across the back, when I set up for say a Gita Brai, okay, I'm stretching from this fingertips across the back, right across the back, through to the other elbow and through into the other arm. So when I'm stretching all that, it's all connected. So when I release the arm, okay, I'm not just using this arm, okay, I'm actually pulling from this arm as well. So I'm using both arms, I'm pulling from one side all the way through. So I've got this big chain of muscle all the way through, it's all pulling on that Gita Brai to throw the arm out. Okay? Again, same works with the Uchuki. Okay, it's the same pull across the back. The shooter, it's the same pull right round. The more I stretch this one out, the more muscle I engage to throw that one out. Okay, so sometimes when people are doing these techniques, they'll put one out loosely and they'll focus all on this arm, and this arm is just kind of placed out there. and then not much happens. But if as you're stepping through, you stretch with that one, and you get that stretch going all the way there, all across your back, into the other arm, and then you've got an awful lot more power, because you've got an awful lot more muscle pulling to throw that arm out. Okay, I'm not just using this arm to throw it out, I'm using the pull through the fascial system of that one as well. Okay, now this works through a number of different networks. So that's a fascial system which goes through the back. When you look at a fascial system that goes through the front. Okay, if we look at, so we say, a Sotoyuki, when we get to that position for the Sotoyuki, now I'm stretching across the front of the chest. Okay, so I've got to stretch from that fingertips, pulling all the way out there. So when I release this hand, everything works a lot faster. So I'm not just focusing on that arm, I'm pulling from the opposite arm as well. Now, another little thing, when we're talking about stretching, another way to stretch something is if you pull it out and you twist it. By twisting, that increases the stretch as well. So you might notice we twist our wrists quite a lot in karate. So when I'm doing a Sotoyuki, for example, I twist this way as I come round, I twist that way, I twist that way, I twist that way. Same with all the techniques. They all start in one position and they end up twisting to the extreme of the other position. So again, we're making use of that pulling, twisting to get the maximum twist in our muscles, in our arms, through that fascial system. Okay, so what I'd suggest, if you can get a bungee or something similar, just try those exercises with that technique. Okay, so with a bungee cord in place and feel it. If you haven't got bungee, just use some imagination. Just as you're doing the techniques, do it slowly and really make a point of stretching out of those fingers, pulling that elbow across as far as you can, so you've got a stretch coming down through that arm, okay, through the back. And when you're stretching across the back, make sure you're stretching across this part, not across the shoulders. Some people tend to come up hunch up like that, and they kind of like put the stretch across the shoulders. Bring that stretch down to there, okay? For a couple of reasons. One is that's where the fascial system goes, as you saw in the diagrams earlier on. And the other thing is, if you just think about it, you've got a lot of musculature around this area. Your chest muscles, your lat muscles, all the rest of it. Your shoulder muscles are quite small by comparison. So do you want to engage the small muscle groups, or do you want to engage the big muscle groups all around the chest and the lateral muscles? Okay, they're much bigger muscle groups. So compress, keep the shoulders down. Okay, think of like a Lego set, where you're putting a Lego piece, one Lego piece onto the other, down with the shoulders, like the Lego. Okay, so compress there, and start off slowly at first. So compress, that put the chest down, stretch out, feel the stretch going all the way from those fingertips, all the way through the back, right away into this arm, and then release it. Stretch, release. Stretch, release. Stretch, release. Try it with all your techniques. It's easier to feel it with this one first, because you can feel it stretching across your back, and the Sotoyuki because it comes across the body. But it also works with the punches as well. Okay, so I can like gently stretch out with this one before I punch, and this one is pulled back. Again, I've got that twist, so I've got that twisting stretch as well, by twisting there, and that elbow pulled back in. Don't let the elbow relax, pull it back in that way, so it's not so it's tight, but so it's taut, so it's stretched. And then you've got all that stretch, and then release that into the punch. Again, pull this elbow back, stretch out there, and release it into the punch. Okay? So I hope you find that useful. It's something which we don't need much space to practice. Okay, so it's ideal for practicing at home. Okay, it doesn't take much space, and I hope you find that useful. Enjoy. Please leave your feedback below.